Hello, good morning, everyone. How are you? I hope you're having a great day. Today, I want to talk about it is 30th of June here in Australia, and so we are at the end of the financial year. It is the time of year when people are talking about budgets and hiring, and companies are doing all of that kind of thing. So the peak hiring periods in Australia, anyway, is usually February, March, and usually July, August. So after the end of financial year, companies assessing budgets and they start that peak hiring time. So what does that mean? That means getting ready for job applications and, more importantly, getting ready for interviews. And this seems to be a bear bug for most people when they're going through that job application process, I think people fear interviews more than they even fear writing their resumes and their career document profiles and things like that. And I guess that's because in an interview, you're on your own. You can get a professional resume writer or a career mastery coach or, people who do what I do. You can get us to help you do your documents and to prepare you and to help you get that interview. But when you're actually in the interview, you are on your own. You have to be able to sell yourself and demonstrate why you're the perfect candidate for the role. And really, the aim of an interview should be about two things. One is making a connection with the interviewer, because you can come across as super slick, super professional. And I've had a couple of clients come recently telling me that when they got feedback around their interview skills, at least a couple of them were told that they came across as super slick, super professional, but the interviewer didn't feel a connection with them. And what happens is when an interviewer doesn't feel a connection with you is that they can't then see how you are the right fit for their company culture. They can't really see how you might fit into their team or into their company, even if you have the best resume and the best skills. So the first job of an interview is the first job for you to get right in an interview is to make that connection with the interviewer. And then the other one, obviously, is to be able to demonstrate how your skills can help them. So what do you have to offer that can support, help, and improve that company, that project, or whatever initiative is being worked on at that point in time, right? So the thing to remember is to be prepared. Preparation is key, but you don't want to be so prepared that you come across as rehearsed and super slick, because you're not going to make the connection that way. So preparation is key, but it has to be balanced. So I want to give you some tips on how you can boost your chances in an interview. First one, obviously, is to be professional at all times. So that means you dress for success, right? You can wear your thongs and you can wear your board shorts and whatever at a later stage. Turn up for an interview, even if it is a tech interview where some techies or most techies, come work in the background and they wear hoodies and things like that. But for an interview, turn up looking professional. A nice shirt for men, nice blouse for women, and, trousers, or in women's case, a skirt, but look slick and professional, right? Don't be in your demeanor too slick and too professional, but dress for success. Look professional. When you meet people in person, if you're doing an in-person interview, obviously shake hands, but don't let it be a bone-crushing handshake. And you don't want, the floppy fish handshake either. So a nice, balanced, firm handshake that exhibits confidence. With virtual interviews, make sure your background is neutral. Don't have anything that could potentially offend or upset interviewers. If you are going to have a background, nature ones are usually safe to go with. Most people like nature, love trees, love something to do with nature, right? But anything else, I would caution against, because, everyone has different tastes, and you could have a rock band in your background that someone doesn't like, Stack the deck in your favor, have neutral backgrounds or blank backgrounds. Preparation also that you've done your research on the company, right? So have examples in your answers of how you can solve the biggest challenges the company is facing. And the way you get to understand what companies are facing is by doing your research. So obviously the easiest way to do that is to go to the company website and see what information you can find there. The other thing to do is to look at company social media pages. So if they're on Twitter or if they're on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, because often companies share a more up-to-date information on their social media pages, right? So go and look at that, be aware of what's going on there. The other thing you could do is reach out to first connections. So if you have first connections on LinkedIn that work at that company, don't be afraid to ask for information. Don't be afraid to reach out to those people and find out, what's the biggest company, what's the biggest challenge the company's having at the moment? Is there, one or two major initiatives going on where there's a big focus on a certain process or update or initiative that the company is engaging in at the moment? People are quite willing to share information with you. So if you're genuine and you show genuine interest, most people will share some insight, right? So reach out to connections that you have on LinkedIn. And if you don't have first at the company that you want to apply for a job for, do some searching on LinkedIn, find and make those. And then you can, after, starting up or striking up a conversation, you can ask them for some information. Be bold in your requests. Don't be afraid to ask for information. Most people are willing to share. When you're in the interview, right? Answer. Now, I'm stating the obvious, but so many people waffle on, and often that's due to nerves, right? So people expect you to be nervous. All of us, when we do interviews, no matter what kind of interviews they are, whether they job interviews or business opportunity interviews or business partnership interviews, we get nervous, right? We have to sell ourselves, and we all hope that people like us, and we all hope that our skills are good enough, right? So, it's natural to be nervous, but don't waffle. Listen to the question. Don't interrupt when you're being asked the question. Listen to the full question and then answer only what's being asked, right? Don't waffle. Be sharp and succinct in your answers. Here's a tip. If you're talking for more than 2 minutes on any question, you're talking too long. You're going to start getting into that waffle stage. So be sharp, be succinct, and answer the question. One of the tips I give people is to use the SAO model to kind of frame your answers with an SAO model. And what I mean by that, it's similar to the STAR model. STAR model is a 4-step process. SAO is a 3-step process, so easier to remember. S, situation, A, action, O, outcome. So situation, action, outcome. So briefly describe a situation, then describe the action to improve that situation or resolve the situation, and then the outcome. And obviously we want outcomes to be a positive outcome or an outcome where there was a huge lesson learned, right? So situation, action, outcome. And if you stick to that kind of framework when answering your questions, you'll be able to answer them in sharp, succinct ways. And most answers you'll be able to keep under 2 minutes per answer. Let's see, what else do I want to share with you around this? Oh, here's another point I want you to remember. So many people get so nervous because they think that they're the only one on display in an interview. But remember, you're not the only one on display, right? It's a two-way process. Think about an interview as you interviewing the company as much as they're interviewing you. So you want to make sure that you end up in the right role, because you don't want to end up in a position where within 6 months, 3 to 6 months, a year, you're dissatisfied, you're discontented, and you hate your job. That's not going to benefit anybody, least of all you, and it's certainly not going to benefit the company. So understand that the interview is a two-way process. So have some questions, at least 3. Have them ready. Oh, thanks, Sanjay. I see you there giving a comment. Thanks for that. I lost my train of thought. Understand that interviews is a two-way process, and have at least 3 questions ready. And one of your 3 questions that you want to ask the interviewer should be a connection question. And one of the easiest and best connection questions to ask in an interview is, what do you love most about working for this company? Because that question does 2 things. It gets the interviewer talking about themselves. And if you know human nature, you know that we all love to talk about ourselves at some point or another. And it also creates rapport. It helps you listen to the interviewer for a change. But it also gives you a chance to get some insight into that company. So asking that question, what do you like most about working for this company, is going to do 2 things. It gives the interviewer a chance to talk about themselves and to talk about what they like about the company, and it's going to give you insight into the company. And you do need to have some insight into a company, because you also need to determine if this is the right company for you. So in conclusion, right, preparation is key. Practice, practice, practice is important. You don't get brilliant at interviews unless you practice, practice, practice. Practice with a friend, practice with a colleague, record yourself on your iPhone and review your interview, look at your body language, look at whether you're holding eye contact. You know, if you're practicing with a friend and you're recording it, or if you're practicing with a camera, make sure you're holding eye contact with the camera. Practice, practice, practice. Be confident, calm, and personable, and aim to make a connection in the interview, because ultimately interviews are about seeing if you're the right fit for the company, the project, or the culture. Remember, job-specific skills can be taught or can be learned, but a good attitude and the right energy cannot. And so, more importantly than your skills, interviewers are looking to see where your energy fits, where your attitude is, and if that matches their company. So that's my tips for the day. Wishing you all the best for those of you who are getting interviews. I do have a guide that talks about the 20 most common interview questions and how to answer them. And it's really focused on behavioral type questions. So if you're interested in receiving that guide, just either direct message me on LinkedIn or comment below, and I'm happy to send you to the link where you can get that guide. Have a great day, and wishing you the best for those of you who are going through job application processes, and for those who might find these interview tips useful at a later stage, certainly hope it helps. Bye for now.